Welcome to another edition of Riding Home here on Dog Post, making you a smarter Georgia fan. Dean Legge, Matt DeBary. Matt, um, let's start talking about, man, quarterbacks are always a big conversation. Jamie Newman is, this is hard to, it's not, it's hard for me to believe when other guys are up this high, but for Jamie Newman to be listed about number 5 in early Heisman voting prognostications, um, I don't know. And I'm a Heisman voter. I've been a Heisman voter for 15 years now.
Well, I think everything is going to have to come together for him to make it to New York or wherever they have the Heisman Trophy ceremony. So very early to talk about this stuff. But if they think Jamie Newman is number 5, it looks like the people who made that or assume that should happen really like Todd Monken coming in and switching up this Georgia offense. They must think the offensive line will hold up after missing a few starters. We've talked about that at length on another Riding Home. And
Right.
he's going to have the weapons, obviously no DeAndre Swift, but the receiving core will be better. So it seems like there's a lot of people out there in the national media who think that, this Georgia offense is going to take that next step forward, not only because of Jamie Newman, but because of Todd Monken and just the different pieces that he'll have compared to the weapons that Georgia had last fall. So it says a lot. I think that's a little high. I think Georgia's usually pretty balanced run and pass, or at least they try to be. So it's tough to really have the Heisman type of numbers that you have to put up in Georgia's offense. But maybe with Todd Monken, he's able to get the number of passing yards, touchdowns, and most importantly, the wins in order to make it to New York.
Well, I said 5th. He's really 4th. I mean, Trevor and Justin are listed as 4-1 favorites to win. So they're equal favorites. I think everybody understands that. Spencer Rattler, who you know a little bit about, 12-1. And then Sam Ehlinger and Jamie Newman. Look, I've seen Sam Ehlinger. He ain't winning the Heisman. I mean, that would be stunning to me. Mac Jones is 25-1. Bo Nix 25-1. Derek King 25-1. Najee Harris looks like he's 40-1. Travis Etienne for Clemson 20-1. Ian Book 21. That Notre Dame Clemson game is about the only game I think Clemson can lose as a legit game. I think we know over time they can lose any game they play because they've kind of proven that. But like in terms of a real game, Notre Dame could give them a real challenge in November up there. It's going to be cold. But, I'm skeptical that happens for Notre Dame. But Trevor being listed the same as Justin. Comments?
I think Justin will probably have the numbers because he'll have the rushing yards to go with the big passing yards, and that system is just set up perfectly for Justin's skill set.
Yeah.
And going into this year, I thought Travis Etienne would be in New York. I thought it'd be Tua, Justin Fields, and Travis Etienne. I thought he would just run over defenses, and he has the ability to do that. But I think Clemson is still a little too balanced between the run and pass for one of those guys to really blow up.
Both of those guys being in the top 6 in early odds to win the Heisman, unless you're modern day SC, which Clemson is not.
Yeah,
that's gonna be tough to pull off. And Etienne,
I think Etienne could have like 1,500 yards and be that guy.
Here's the problem,
consistently.
man. Let's just be straight. Who in the world does Clemson play that they're going to prove it that their lead person is going to be a Heisman Trophy winner? I mean, you listen. Let me finish my rant here, Matt, before you cut me off like I always cut you off.
I wasn't going to.
I always cut you off. I know that our listeners love it, and some very vocal minority complains about it. But as a Heisman voter, I'm so special, and as just a college football fan, you win you win the Heisman Trophy in late November or December. I mean, when did Joe Burrow lock down the Heisman? Can you remember? I can. Go for it.
I think it was after Alabama. I think he took control of number 1, but it was the play against Georgia where he said, "Oh, it's this kid. It has it, 100%."
No question. I mean, Cam did it probably against Alabama.
LSU when he stiff armed Patrick Peterson.
That didn't
took off.
That didn't win it for him. He had to still go past the whole.
I think that might have been the moment though where it took off for him and he became the front runner.
But
you had the vote. I don't remember.
When did Johnny Manziel win it?
Probably Alabama.
When was that game?
Well, that was the moment. I don't know when he won it though.
When was that game? November. It was November.
Okay. Okay.
So it was Georgia Auburn of 2012. I mean, when you just, you know, when you look at guys win it either in championship weekend or they win it, with the run up to that. I mean, no one's talking about what Trevor and ETN are going to do again. Maybe this year's different now. Maybe you can win it against.
Well, the Notre Dame game is early.
No. That game's in November.
Oh, okay. Okay. I look at the schedule wrong.
You gotta. I know the ACC just put it out, but we gotta. You're thinking too much about. They have played Notre Dame early. They are going to play Notre Dame a lot now. I think that's a good thing for Clemson, frankly. But they're going to play Clemson. Clemson and Notre Dame are going to play a lot here in the near future. But I just don't see how the schedule lines up for Trevor or ETN, both playing on the same team, to have the capability to win the thing. Obviously, Chua Hubbard, he's a 20-1. He's at Oklahoma State. If you don't know who that is, that's fine. I'm probably not even pronouncing his name correctly. But Ohio State is, the number one television brand. They're going to play Michigan at the end of the season. They get that game. Georgia doesn't. I mean, Georgia has to deal with Georgia Tech. But in theory, they'll have the SEC championship game. That's in November. They'll have, I don't think this is going to be a big game necessarily, but who knows? They'll have Tennessee late in November now. So swapping that with Auburn. But I'm a little bit, this just entire list, I mean, I think it's Justin's to lose right now. And I think,
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I think it is. He's going to have the moments. He's going to play in big games. They usually, looking back at Ohio State's schedule, they usually play a few ranked teams and a lot of times beat up on, some pretty good teams, the Penn States, Wisconsin's, and then Michigan at the end of the year where they always win. But he's going to play in big games when everyone's watching, and he has the talent to put up big numbers. And obviously, to have big moments. I mean, the kid's really, really good. So him in that system, I think it is his to lose. I think you're right there.
How is Trevor supposed to compete with Clemson's schedule essentially being at Notre Dame? With Ohio State's going to play at Oregon in September. October, they play Michigan State and Penn State. Those are both going to be considered big games. And then the third game after that is Nebraska on Halloween. Now, I know and Michigan State and Nebraska ain't shit. But they are brand names to some degree. It sounds good. Those are big TV number games. Penn State certainly is nothing to joke around about. Now, most of the schedule in November doesn't matter for Ohio State. They're not going to lose to Indiana, Maryland, or Illinois. But Michigan is the most watched game. Michigan-Ohio State's the most watched game every year in the non-championship regular season. The most watched game in the regular season is the SEC championship game each year. So I don't see how. And just getting back to Newman at Georgia. I mean, one, that assumes he's going to win the job at Georgia, which, I mean, okay, let's assume he wins the job. Secondly, number 4 on the list. I mean, but I don't know what Sam Ehlinger. Sam Ehlinger has a bigger brand name than Jamie Newman does. But honestly, what has Sam Ehlinger done? He's beaten Georgia in the Sugar Bowl and Oklahoma once. And what else did they? I mean, they're 8-5 this past year.
Well, everyone's on the Texas hype train.
I need Texas to actually matter before
they haven't in a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to be all that great again this year. But the hype is going to be there. People want Texas back. They want Sam Ehlinger to do well because they're a big TV, football brand as well.
They're not a big TV brand, comparatively speaking, to these other schools. They should be. But they're just like USC. When you're not good, people ain't going to watch.
Right.
But they play at LSU to start the season. That's the second game of the season. If you're Texas and you don't beat LSU this year coming up, don't talk to me for a while. They play Oklahoma in October. And then it's kind of hard to see. I mean, does Oklahoma State get your juices flowing, Matt?
Absolutely not. Spencer Rattler is good at Oklahoma, but I don't know if Oklahoma is going to be as good as they were last year. Probably not as good as they were 2 years ago.
I mean, I'm just going to dish fire here. You mean good enough to lose in the semifinals for the third time in 5 years?
Oh my! They're the Green Bay Packers. It's they get to that Final Four, and they can't do much there. But I think he is a good quarterback, and Oklahoma will be good. But you never know. But getting back to Georgia, I was very surprised when I saw the opening early Heisman list, and Jamie Newman was up there so much. But I think everything is still going to have to come into play. The offensive line is still going to do their job, and a second receiver is going to step up. We know what George Pickens can do, but one of these receivers, whether it's a freshman or a healthy Blaylock, or maybe Matt Landers comes and finally in his 6th year at Georgia, turns it up and takes that second spot. But someone's going to have to, and the offensive line is going to have to hold up as well. So a lot of things have to happen together for him to be in that conversation, and of course win ball games, and they should win a bunch of ball games next year. The winning, going up and winning in Tuscaloosa would be a big start for that. If he can go into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama, you might have a little Heisman talk in the middle of the year.
Well, here's the thing, again, is that for Georgia, the entire country is going to watch you when you play Virginia. So that game is going to probably have, north of 7 to 8 million viewers. And that's the most viewers that Virginia is going to get this decade. And they're just not going to, it just don't matter. And then you've got the game at Alabama, which, my suspicion is that CBS is going to pull a night game there, but we'll see. But Georgia's got these games stacked. You open the season, the whole country's watching. 2 weeks later, the whole country's watching. 3 weeks after that, you've got Auburn. We'll see how that one goes. Maybe the whole country's not watching that. Obviously, the whole world watches the Gators and Dogs. And then you close the season with, it ain't the greatest TV on earth, but it's there with Carolina, Tennessee. We'll see what happens with Tennessee, Kentucky, and Tech. And then obviously, if you do what you got to do, you'll be in the SEC championship game. Georgia has a manageable schedule to get eyeballs. But you're not winning the Heisman against Georgia Tech or Kentucky. You're going to have to do it in the SEC championship game. A win. If Jamie Newman throws 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, Georgia wins by 10, or let's say Georgia wins by 3, coming down the field, driving it against Alabama, you're not winning the Heisman Trophy in September.
Right. And again, you have to have one of those big moments where you win a ball game at the end or something like that.
It has to be at the end of the year, man. People aren't going to think about this Alabama game because people didn't think about Joe Burrow when he beat Texas at the beginning of the season, and that game seemed epic at the time.
If you're a Georgia fan, you don't want Jamie Newman having to come from behind and bring you some fourth quarter classic comeback win in November against Tennessee or Carolina or Tech. That would not be great.
No.
And if that's the spot they're in, he's probably not in the Heisman Trophy conversation anyway if they're struggling to beat those teams at the end of the year.
They got 2, if you want to call them tricky games, at Carolina the week after the Gators before Tennessee, and in Kentucky, man, it's going to be freezing up there in November. Freezing. I'm not about
2 years
that.
ago, it wasn't bad. If it's like 2 years ago,
it's going to be late November, Matt.
Well, the last one was November, right? Or no, it was October.
No, it was the week after the Gators. It was early November, but this is November 21st. We got to work on that. Where's Mike Slive when I need him? Too bad. R.I.P. It's disappointing. I got Kirby calling me on the phone. Look, I do want to touch too real quick on basketball last night.
That was brutal. That was so bad.
You just can't lose games like that. Number one. Number two, Anthony Edwards leads the team in points, rebounds, assists. You've got guys who are playing 30-plus minutes who don't have a point. I think Tom Crean did not sleep last night. But he, to me, is a fit at Georgia. But he's got to start winning these games. And I know being the head coach at a college basketball coach, man, I saw it when I was playing college basketball, and I've seen it with my coach who has retired since. It's not an easy life. You're playing 30 games a season or more, but they should be better than they are right now. And not only that, even if they were 15-5 right now, you can't lose a game where you're up 20 with about 8 minutes to go.
Yeah, confession, I turned it off early in the second half. Early in the second half, because I I thought the game was over, and I watched TV with the girlfriend. I thought Georgia had a solid win. And then I woke up this morning to the news. I didn't even check the final score last night. I woke up and I was like, how did they lose? How did they lose that game?
Well,
again, I don't know because I didn't watch it, but that's an epic collapse. And something that shouldn't happen when you have a guy like Anthony Edwards, who I guess is trying to put the whole team on his back, doing too much. The talent's there, but it seems like that's what's kind of happening.
Well, you got yes and no. I mean, there's look.
You're the basketball guy.
I understand that I'm the basketball guy, but I want to be real careful here because there are times to criticize Anthony. Sometimes he doesn't do enough. Sometimes he tries to do too much. I think last night he played pretty well. I mean, in fact, that's about as well as I've seen him play this year. Euro steps off the baseline. I mean, there's plenty of basketballs. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that he was doing on the court last night that were just, but this team has got to function better. And they're just not. I mean, they were killing them. They were efficiency on offense was great. I think I did what I did not think would happen has happened. These guys are too young. I think Anthony's too young. I think he still will be a top 5 draft pick in the NBA. But in terms of this season, I think they are not mature in terms of understanding that you have to fight every possession. And why I say that is this. Last night, let's just, okay. But you beat Tennessee by 17 a few days after you lose to Auburn by 17, and then you lose to Mississippi State by 32 a couple of days after that. Things shouldn't be that wild and winding back and forth. Conference games, whether you're playing in the South Atlantic or you're playing in the SEC, these should be games within 15 points. They should be within 7 points. And it's because you're in the same league. You have basically the same players. And it's about understanding that you got to get it every time every time you get down the court, whether it's offense, that shit matters every possession. Every defensive possession, your feet have to be right. You have to go get the ball, 2 hands, the whole deal. And I think that's what they're missing right now to me. This isn't about skill. If you want to criticize Tom Crean, that's fine. But what I'm saying is what's not happening, and you can blame it on whoever you want to me, they are not competing every single time they're up and down the court. And when you got a 20-point lead, yeah, I get it. You just kind of like, hey, let's let the clock go. But you still got to have everything right. You can't get lazy. If you got to drop to the level of the ball, you got to go sprint out on shooters. There's things you got to do. And that's the part. Both of those things were defensive things I just said there. But even your offense has to be crisp. If you're doing back screens, bust a guy in the ass. That's fine. But it's about really taking every single possession seriously. They still had, if my memory serves correct, 17 turnovers. That's too many. Now, that's not crazy. It's getting up there. That's not 20. But it's too many, Matt.
One of the things I've noticed is they do lack size.
Yes.
And I hate to say this, but they don't have that Mamba mentality.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah. They don't have that fire and that energy. It seems like the guys look a little tired. They have been playing a lot of games. So is everyone else.
Yeah.
That's not an excuse. But it goes back to the youth and inexperience because these guys are getting more now. They aren't giving it 100% every possession. And when you play in this style of offense where it is, up-tempo, fast-pace, yeah, you can turn the ball over a lot. And if you're not ready and giving full effort, especially when you don't have size and can get beat up in the paint, right, yeah, it can be really tough at times. And they're going through it right now. And we'll see if they can man up and get through this adversity because they're sure facing a lot of it right now.
We all think we give good effort all the time. Whether it's me and you talking about the future of Dog Post and success we've had over this however many month period. It's not, you got to do it every day. You got to do it every possession. You got to effort your way to win. Speaking of effort, go ahead and effort a subscription on Dog Post right there on YouTube. Everyone, thanks for listening to us. We'll see you tomorrow with Matt's Recruiting Roundup.